Yeah, hello. What's good, Mageborn One Puss here with the one and only thick, big, baddie, daddy, Queen Sama, the one and only. He is phenomenal unit. Came out with King. They are both phenomenal units. I truly appreciate having them because they are the one and only counters that we have. Not only, but they are the one true counters to the Gear 5 Luffy meta that was being abused so heavily recently. Anyways, let's dive in. This is going to be all you need to know guide. If you do not know his traits or skills, please be sure to look over those before, so you'll kind of have a little more insight as to everything that I talk about and why we build him as we do. With that, let's get started and begin with our stat spread for Queen. He has a lot of percentage health based damage abilities. That is his two skills. That is all they have. They have very low base damages on those as well, so you're really not going to be hitting that hard. Plus, you don't have any damage increase on your character either. So you're going to be focused on mainly just shredding them with pure percentage damage. So with that, you don't need to build any attack. You can go full HP defense, and since there's a lot of skills that ignore defense in this current meta, I generally recommend maxing out HP. But if you can get the 70% HP, 70% defense, you'll be good to go. Maybe once we get back into an attack buff meta, you'll be better off building higher defense. If you want to throw your flat stats additions on there, that is up to you. But for the most part, I actually run a 32,000 HP Queen. This is including my support, but also has my metal sets, and I maxed out HP completely, which gives him a significantly larger amount of health. So I do recommend doing that. And on top of that, I feel like I should capitalize with this and start adding these to my videos, is the support that I recommend for him. I actually run runner support with him, so I can get a little bit extra HP, because you don't really get too much from the attacker. Like, building attack and building defense doesn't really help you too much. The defense would be better, but you're not going to be charging flags. So if you can go runner support, that will be the most ideal if you're trying to debate between those three. Alright, now let's talk about his pros. What makes him good? Why is Queen good? And why is he being played so often recently? First off, the percentage damage is huge, especially for shredding Gear 5, especially for shredding a lot of those defenders that are impossible to get through. He can get through them easily. It is a big help, and it is actually phenomenal to have him on your team. I truly appreciate it. So having Queen is great, and I actually absolutely love it. So next thing is his invisibility. When you get knocked back, you are hit with an invisibility, so the enemy one doesn't even know where you even landed after hitting you with a knockback, because as soon as you get knocked back, you're invis. So they can't really tell what direction you flew. But this invisibility actually allows you to line up and prepare for whatever you need, whether you need to get your skill off and hit them by surprise, or if you just need to start taking the flag, you can get into that. He can take flags while you're invisible, even if the enemy is on it. So they can't even stop you from taking flags if you end up turning invisible, which is also a huge deal, because you can't be knocked off your flag. You can only be status affected off of it. The next one is when you get knocked back, you also heal. So you turn invisible and you heal 30% of your HP. So kind of why health goes far, and especially if you have defense, you'll reduce damage too. If you have a large amount of health, you'll heal huge amounts, and people will not really be able to kill you because they'll keep knocking you back and then healing you, and you'll just keep getting back up and running back at them. Next up, you have damage reduction to people with defense buffs. So you have about, if you have, depending on your metal sets, you'll have about 60% damage reduction, but you'll have at the very least 50% damage reduction to people with defense buffs. So that generally, you'll get hit by them and you'll take no damage, and if they have a defense buff, you also heal by 3% per hit. So it's very difficult for people with defense buffs to be able to get you off the flag. They cannot knock you back off of it. They can only status affect you. Keep that in mind. Lastly is kind of already touched on that, was the heals with people with defense buffs. So we already hit that. That is all of the things that make him so phenomenal. This is a fantastic unit. I've been having so much fun with him. I truly appreciate him. All right, you guys, with every good, there has to be a bad. So let's talk about the cons for Queen Sama. The number one issue that he runs into is certain units already exist that are a huge counter to him. So there are units who are immune to percentage damage. A shout out to Kainu for this curse of an ability, because otherwise Queen would be thriving. But there's some units who heal actually a lot more off the percentage damage. So Queen only shreds 4% HP on his first skill, and he only shreds 3% HP on his second skill. There's different units out there like Blue Defender Kaido, Hybrid Yamato, not Hybrid Yamato, the Red Runner Yamato, as well as Onigashima Zoro, who heal about 6%. I could be wrong on this, but they heal about 6% HP. It varies per unit, but Zoro at least heals 6% whenever he's hit by a percentage damage. So someone like Zoro is actually going to be healing every time you hit him with your percentage damage. So really, that's one of your biggest issues. If you're fighting a Zoro, don't even bother using your press and hold skills. You can just press the skill and release it. It will still knock him back and it will still do damage, but you don't want to give him those percentage damage heals, because he will just come out of that. Unless you're trying to push him off the flag, then it could be worth it. Next one is his other big bane of existence. King has this issue as well, is status effects. So people like Hybrid Yamato, whatever you do, do not try and fight a Hybrid Yamato. Her shield is very difficult to get through because you do not have the base damage for it. Unless you were to build attack, I guess that'd be different, but that's up to you. I will digress. I generally prefer the HP defense build. But anyone who has like those status effects that will destroy you, so there's Candyman, Prospero. There's Uta, different Utas, both the red and blue can be very difficult to deal with, or Onigashima Nami. Like I kind of said this in my King video, if you have not seen that already, but they both suffer from the same weaknesses between those status effects, and it can really, really hurt you, which kind of sucks sometimes, but I think every unit needs a counter, so it's actually kind of worth it. Next up is kind of, you need to time your abilities off, so like you're not getting side-checked by a bunch of other units. So there are, as I said, status effectors out there. When you're hitting people, they do take a time period in order to get off fully, so it probably takes you a good like 5 seconds roughly to hit your full skill 1. So watch out for others because you don't want to get hit. And on top of that, if you're fighting a year 5, you are immune to knockback, which means you will not heal when getting hit by people who knock back. So you could be missing out on free heals when using your skill 1. We'll talk about this kind of later in the tips and tricks, but just something to be careful when you're fighting specific units that you do counter. Alright, next let's talk about the characters that you counter and that you are strong against. First one's up is Gear 5 Luffy. You can destroy him. It is fantastic. You just need to make sure he gets his defense buff first. Don't go getting a little too overzealous. I've done this myself. I am fully guilty of this. But make sure you do not go in before he has his defense buffs. Start basic attacking him and get him to use his skills. Watch out. Make sure you save your dodge for the Kaminari because you don't want to get shocked. But make sure you can get him and at least try and push him off the flag and then get him to start having to force you off the flag. So he's going to need to try and get the defense buff, and eventually he can't avoid it usually. So you can just mess with him, you hit him with a percentage damage, just try and get everything out before you start using your skill 1. You can use your skill 2, but don't use skill 1. Next one up is pretty much any units of the defense buff. So that's a lot of units. So we got the new buffed Katakuri, we have Treble, we have even people like Onigashima Jinbei. Like there's a lot of defenders who get defense buffs, and this actually really hurts them. So they're unable to do literally anything against Queen, which is kind of crazy. Honestly, it feels nice because Queen actually does shred Treble, and I absolutely love it. On top of that, you can fight other units. There's people like Roger and Shanks who can be problematic because sometimes you deal too much damage and you end up healing them. Whereas with Queen, you do such a small amount of damage, but often enough where you can actually shred shred Shanks and Roger. So be careful. They do a lot of damage, but Shanks does get a defense buff, so it works in your favor where he will keep healing you. Plus, Shanks has a bunch of knockbacks, which also heal you. So you really don't have too much of a problem, and he's actually one of the few like unique runners that can deal with Film Red Shanks solidly. You'll still lose your HP because he'll have that HP cut, and you can't get rid of his red hair state, but you can definitely fight him very well. Alright, next up, let's talk about the counters. First one, I kind of already have mentioned on these. Onigashima Nami seems to be very problematic. So, she's the first one that actually comes to mind. I actually have been destroyed by her many, many times. Watch out for her shock. It is very difficult to kind of work around when she plays her range correctly. If the Nami plays it correctly, she may be able to get you to mess up, dodge, and then you're going to be screwed from there. So be careful when fighting her. You usually won't run into too many in League Battle, but it's something to look out for. Next one's Charlotte Prospero. Again, unlikely so much in this meta where we're at, but he can destroy you. So just be careful and try and avoid him, honestly, if you can. Next up is Red and Blue Uta. Try not to fight them. Red Uta is not too problematic if she has her shield down, but if she has her shield, you're 99% chance going to lose unless you magically perfect dodge her skill 1, which you have to do pretty much by guessing, so that is kind of something that go against you. And then lastly is kind of Blue Boa Hancock. If you watch my King video, again, these are very similar. They are both King and Queen for these V2 versions work very similarly in terms of what their weaknesses are and what their strengths are, so they kind of have a lot of overlap in between those. Alright, lastly, let's talk about some medals. I'll be honest, coming up with some medals, I actually found some new sets that might be insane on him. There are some older event ones that I didn't put on here because I'm sure most people, like 99% of players, don't have them because unless they've been playing since day one. So I went with some more medals that are easier to access. So the first one's first is the High Cap Speed Dressrosa set. You have that Laufey medal, that Red Doflamingo medal, as well as the Runner Red Law medal. That one is your basic really high cap speed option if you want to go that. I like that set. I don't know, I feel like you can get something better off, which kind of brings me to my second set. So that one's really good if you have those units or have the fragments for those units. Remember, for those of you who are watching this, you don't have to own the unit to get the fragments. You just had to have played with them a certain amount of times. Each time you play with them, you have a chance to get the fragment. Anyways, moving on. Let's go to this next one. This Big Mom set I didn't think would be so insane, but since the 2 Big Moms have the devil skills plus the kata, the Big Mom set on the left here gives you heals when you get a kill, which you do get kills with Queen, actually, surprisingly easily. The second one gives you cap speed well above 70% HP, which you usually are, I'll be honest. And then you have the Katakuri one gives you damage reduction by 5% when you're above cap speed. Plus, you have the tags that gives you 6-7% damage reduction while you're on a flag alone. So you'll have a total of, what is that, 7 plus 5, you get that 13% or 12% damage reduction, which actually goes a long way. Plus, if you're fighting a defense, someone with a defense buff, that's another 50% damage reduction. So it goes a long way. You can really utilize every aspect of this metal set. So I really think this Big Mom Charlotte family set is really, really, really good. So that is an option. I also like this third one here. You get some cap speed from this king. This is the Beast Pirates Animal Kingdom. There, you could mix and match these if you don't have both of these. You have that king medal, gives you extra cap speed when you're alone on the flag. You have that Elif, was an old event medal. If you don't have that old event medal, feel free to look through the other Toby Robos and All-Stars and see what kind of medals you can substitute in for that. But this one gives you some extra heals when you cap a flag, so you get the 5% heal, which, because Queen's heals are nice, but you aren't always getting knocked back, so sometimes having that little extra bit of heal goes a long way. Then on top of that, you have that Jack, which gives you some skill cooldown when you are on the enemy flag, which you're generally going to be on an enemy flag very often. Now this last set is for new players. I wanted to come up with a newer player set. I actually found a different one that goes with that Miss Sunday medal. That one gives you cap speed. The Croco one and the Mr. 3, those ones are just kind of there. They don't really fit specifically super well into it, but they are a very like a viable set that you can run if you would like. This is for like, they're all easier to access units at the beginning of the game. So you're very likely to pull the 2 side ones, and then the blue crocodile you can choose to get on the beginning of the game if you wish. So that's an option for you newer players. I wanted to have one that didn't have old event medals, but there are some of those out there. I did find this old Alabasta one that had this crazy old Mr. 3 medal that gives a 6% damage reduction when alone on the flag, which I thought was actually insane. So I kind of want to throw that. I'll probably throw an image up here that kind of shows that off. If you somehow have that, I think very little people have that, but it can be pretty nutty. So anyways, that is my Queen guide. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you found this useful, and let me know what kind of characters you want to see next. But that's all I have for you guys. I hope this was helpful. I'm going to be taking off. Make sure to check out my Twitch, Twitter, and Discord. Like, follow, and subscribe, and I truly appreciate it all. So that's all I have for you guys. I'm Borumpus. I'm going to be taking off. Yeah, peace, beautiful people.